All right, this is Gary Hartley by the chalkboard. Welcome today. My guest, and you're going to enjoy this, my guest coming from Switzerland is Andreas Ryser. Andreas, welcome.
Welcome, Gary.
And it's good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on and being willing to have a good conversation with me about life and about your experience of life.
Yes,
So you you enjoy motorcycles. You enjoy Harley Davidsons?
yes. At the third one I have a Softail Deluxe right now. I started with the Sportster, that a 1200 uh, cubic inch, and then I had a 1600 White Glide, and now I drive a 1800 cubic inch Softail Deluxe.
So, living in America, everything I know about Sweden has to do with mountains. And it seems so beautiful there in the pictures I've seen. So, I would imagine you have some really spectacular places to ride your motorcycle.
That's right. You can bet for it. Yeah, like we have a lot of mountains, that's true, but half of the country is just like Alps. And we have a lot of lakes, and really, it's very nice for traveling. And there are not so many people here. But we have a small country, but we have only about 8 million people living here. So it's great. We have all this high route going over the Alps, like you go up to 9,000 feet, just a passageway from one valley to the other one. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, I bet you probably anticipate spring and summer coming, right? Because I imagine the snow keeps them from being passable for you, at least in the wintertime.
That's right. Normally these passageways are closed and during the winter, of course, and they open up at April, May. Yeah. But the thing is, on the weekend, usually you have so many people on the way in summertime, with their own bikes. So I prefer to go during the week instead of the weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, when it's less crowded, I can
yeah,
see
yeah.
that. Yeah.
There are also a lot of accidents happening. But there are many people. Can you imagine they have like a boring job during the week, and at the weekend they try to be the king, on the two wheels. For me, it's different. I have a good job. I don't need this extra thrill on the weekend.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, speaking of jobs, you became an entrepreneur at some point in your life.
that's right. I I started to work on my own in the year of 2000. I was an employee and one of the biggest, greatest publishers in Switzerland, where I helped to build up the first internet portal for a newspaper in Switzerland. And I did that with my best colleague at that time, but my colleague got dismissed because of, I don't know exactly, some irregularities. And we have gotten a new boss. And this new boss, he was kind of bullying me, because I was still connected with my colleague, which he threw out. So I really had a rough time there. And I got, well, seriously sick, I must say. I had problems with my heart. So I only had one chance to quit the job, survive and quit the job. That's what
What
I did.
what happened after that? What did you decide to do?
Uh, then I went to my medical doctor first. He looked at that. Oh, it's nothing serious, but you must have had a lot of stress. He even tried to give me some psychopharmaca. So I took it twice or three times and said, okay, it doesn't help. And the situation bettered rapidly after I quit my job. And then I got in contact with a former company I worked with, 1997, and he asked me, would you like to work for me on a mandate basis? You understand basis?
Yeah, is that like a contract on a
Yes, a
contract
contract, but
basis?
on my own, but he pays me. And that's where I started actually, my self-employment.
Okay.
And since then, I never returned back to being employed. I couldn't imagine even being employed, really.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people that there's a lot of freedom in being self-employed if you're disciplined and enjoy your own life enough to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
It's
so you
so it's so true. Yeah.
and so you've done that ever since then.
Yes, I have a little company for web design. I make websites for like small businesses and also for the Swiss government. I used to work, still work, have a little mandate for the the economic department of the Swiss government, doing some things on the website. But mainly I work with little companies around here, restaurants, even butchers, bakeries, stuff like that.
Yeah, so that gives you time to focus on other things and explore ideas and start a podcast. You've started a podcast recently. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something I had in mind honestly, for about 2 years, like I always felt, I have a message and I have to get it out somehow. And I would love to get it out, but I didn't know how to bring it out to the people. And then, funny enough, I got in contact with Brian Rose, which you know as well, right?
Yes.
In March, he made the interview with the American guy called Tika Tiwari. He's a crypto entrepreneur, a specialist in cryptocurrencies. And he was on the show there and he talked about these altcoins. You can buy these altcoins and you can make a fortune. And I really started to get interest in the crypto scene and really digged myself into it. I read a lot of stuff. I even subscribed to newsletters in Palm Beach, Florida, how to deal with that. And then I heard from Brian that he is also offering this education on how to make a podcast. And finally, I joined. I didn't regret so far, even it's a tough business just to learn.
Yeah, for me there's been some really wonderful moments and then some very heavy resistance with some things that I really had to push through and learn and spend hours and hours really unwrapping some things in order to understand how it worked. So
Yeah,
I understand. Yeah.
same here, same here. But actually, I love the principles from Brian, like take 100% ownership. I have it here on the board, resistance, extreme ownership, adding value, fun game, focus on 1,000 true fans. I, really like this kind of principles. They speak to my heart. And that like persuaded me even more that I'm on the right track, what I'm doing.
Yeah, I agree. One of the best things that happened in that course for me is him talking about resistance and looking at it as an opportunity. And I've done that so many times that that's how I look at resistance now when it comes up from within me. Like, oh, this is an opportunity, not something negative. This is good. This is an opportunity to learn and to grow and to expand.
Yeah, I fully agree on that.
So have you visited or lived in the United States?
Well, I have visited the United States for several times, and to tell you the truth, I almost feel home there. I've been from the East Coast to the West Coast. I was up in the north in Montana, and I made several journeys to the States, starting in 1996 when I was in South Dakota. I was there in a camp with the Lakota people
Oh yeah.
near Rapid City.
Mm-hmm.
Spent there 3 weeks, was very amazing. And the year after, I came back and made the whole West, with a girlfriend. And I've been at least 5 or 6 times since there, even at East Coast up to Maine, the Canadian border. So it's a great country, but it's more than a country for us. It's like a continent, you know.
Yeah, it's huge. And I live in Texas, which is the second biggest state, and it takes a whole day just to drive across it.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
it's pretty flat, isn't it?
yeah, it's pretty flat. There's some hills, but there's mountains in one area. Out west, there's some mountains that go up several thousand feet. But a lot of it, especially where I live, it's flat.
Okay, a lot of cows, huh?
Lots of cows. Where I live is a farming and ranching community,
Wow.
um, and there's a lot of really down to earth people here. Most of the people here really enjoy freedom of speech and freedom and liberty, and just kind of live that way naturally. And I enjoy that environment and being able to sit and talk to people. Farmers and ranchers are very laid back people. They
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything fast. You have to
Yeah.
go slow and diligent to get things done. And people who work that way and live that way tend to be, for the most part, real easy to get along with and very friendly. And so that's kind of the environment where I live in.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have never visited Texas, unfortunately, but I know they're famous for the beef and the steaks.
Yes. Texas is unusual in a way that everyone in the world, I think, has at least heard of Texas. I went to Africa once on a mission trip almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, and most of the people there had at least heard of Texas when we talked to them.
All right.
They didn't know about most of the other states, or some of the people didn't, but everyone at least heard of Texas. It has this nostalgia about it, and it's been in lots of Western movies, and that's probably one of the reasons, with gunfights and cowboys and everything. So
It's even the borders. If you look it on the map, Texas looks like a T-bone steak, right? Sort of.
yeah, yeah, it pretty much does. That's what Texas is about, apparently.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's great. I love the United States, I must say. I love the people, the diversity of the people, so many different cultures and opinions. I really love that.
So what's it like over there right now during all this COVID stuff and lockdowns? What's it like for you?
Uh, Pretty frightening. No, I mean, we have like a light lockdown at the moment in Switzerland. Shops are open, restaurants are open, but you have to have this social distancing, and you should wear a mask in a shop, and the government says, oh, infection rates are rising, every day in the newspapers, people are being frightened, a lot of fear around. So, but yeah, and economy is suffering. That's the point, you know. So many small companies, they have to close or they will close, Even a lot of customers, which I have to say, oh, we wait for a new website. We have to wait because we have to see what's the future first,
Mm.
stuff like that. Actually, the fear that is around, that is for me not for me personal, but is the biggest problem. And I'm a guy, I don't agree with, for me, it's a scenario what is being played worldwide. It's not just the virus, it's other things behind, like Great Reset, this guy Schwab from the World Economic Forum, you might have heard from him, Klaus Schwab. He even lives in Switzerland, he says, "Oh, we are never going back to normal. The future will be totally different." But yeah, that's the point. Life used to be fun, but right now, since half a year, like this Corona stuff is always on the sideway. It goes with you wherever you go. When you drive with your motorcycle, you always somehow think about it a bit. So this whole thing I used to have in the past in summertime. Hey, summer, it's coming. The living is easy. This is somehow a little bit gone.
Are you free to travel and go to the store?
Yes, we
Okay.
are. Yeah.
Are restaurants open there?
Yes, they're open, but they have restrictions like 4 people on one table. They have the silly glass walls between tables sometimes, like plexiglass we call it, and you have to leave your address. In case somebody would be infected, they would call you up, so you have to go to quarantine for 14 days. You know. So I fill out these papers, but one time my name is Bill Gates, the other day is Steve Jobs, and I never fill out my real name because can you imagine? I go somewhere and have a meal and they found out 1 week later, one guy was infected. They call me up. I have to stay home for 2 weeks because of that. It's crazy.
Right. You don't quarantine healthy people.
Yeah, that's what I say. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from. Well, it came from, like you said, I think this is more about control and this is a narrative rather than trying to, you know, protect us from something.
That's right. And it never happened in history that mankind succeeded to to stop the spreading of a virus. If you want to stop the spreading, everybody has to wear special suits. It's not just the mask. Do you want to live with the suit the whole day? Special protection suit.
Yeah, the whole mask thing here in Texas, it's not too bad. I have the only place I wear one is in a cigar shop because I out of respect for the owner. And that's the only reason. I literally have not worn one anywhere else unless I absolutely had to. And I've been yelled at a couple times. Um, and haven't had any really good discussions with people who yelled at me because I would rather just talk to them and be kind. I never act aggressively or in anger back to them. But I feel like a lot of it is just misinformation. And like you said, a lot of people are just in fear because they're following the mainstream media. They're following what the television has been telling them about this, and it's scary to them.
Yeah, that's right. I even have an attest from a doctor that I don't have to wear a mask because it's not that I would have an health issue, but as you said, I don't agree with the principle, right? So I have this attest. When I go to the shop, where is your mask? I say, okay, I have an attest, and they apologize. But still, you kind of put yourself in exposition with the only guy who doesn't wear a mask. You see, that's kind of social. How do you say that? You have to know how to deal with that.
Right. Yeah, that takes some learning in at least for me, I have to really work to be kind to people who think differently. Or not, I guess not kind, but to not react toward anything that they say if they're angry or frustrated at me, because just seeing someone not wearing a mask and that generating fear, that's not a healthy way to live.
Mm. It's also this principle from Brian, extreme ownership. I was already able to apply that concerning the mask issue when I when they see like people, they ask me, "Where is your mask?" I try to really try to understand them that they are in fear. I could infect them or whatever, you know. So, so amazingly, even there it helped, you know. People get very friendly and, oh, you have an test. I'm so sorry I had to ask you, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very funny, but yeah, it's not an idle scene, right?
Right. You talked about, or in the email that you sent me, about validating basic rights of other people. And I think it seems to me that the greatest way to practice that is when someone is disagreeing with you somehow, like over this mask thing. How difficult it is it when someone is coming against you with that, to still maintain that presence of mind in you, to recognize that, you know, no matter what, I'm still going to value this person as a human being.
It's very difficult sometimes. Well, I don't always succeed, but sometimes. But you know, like I give you an example, huh? Okay, when I drive with my car, I have a small Mercedes Benz, a little car. When I drive on the highway, 90% of the people they have bigger cars, more horsepower, you know, bigger, more expensive, and very seldom, most of them they try to be faster than me. Okay, because their car is bigger. So actually, you could make a race out of that. No, I want to be first, you know. And I said, okay, your car is bigger. I don't even go in this kind of game, you know. But these games are going on, and actually, Corona start of opened my eyes. What all these little games that are going on. I'm better than you. I'm faster than you. I'm more rich than you. My status is better. My girlfriend is nicer. You know this. You know th- this is what I mean. You know, usually I don't engage in this kind of games, but I don't succeed all the time.
Yeah, I know that when times are easy and things are going smooth, it's kind of a rest period. But then when there's struggle and conflict, that's when all the things that you've learned, now you have to put them into practice. Now you have to do them. Like, oh, I have to be calm here because I feel this tension rising in me with this person who's upset for some reason.
Mhm. That's right. It's when we go back to the mask thing, you know, like in the beginning, sometimes I saw people walking with the mask in the street, you know, fresh air. Uh, I drove with my car. I said, you know, you're wearing mask. Are you 100% in your head? You know, this kind of question, you know. So, but this, this, you get the reaction of he gets mean on you because you're not wearing a mask, you know. Hey, why doesn't he wear a mask? So, but so that's it's a kind of I don't know how to say that, but this mask thing is a kind of it's almost like a religious act, you know, that you can sort of no stay calm, you know. It's just the circumstances. It's a good person, you know, even he might not think good about you or so. It's almost like a ritual act. It's difficult to explain, but it forces you to stay calm. Otherwise, you get into a lot of problems.
Yes, and one of the things that I think you and I are both similar in is we're here to help people in this world. And right now, with all this going on, there's a lot more difficulties people are facing in their life. There's a lot more depression, suicide rates are up. There's a lot more people that have less contact with friends. And so I find it important, and I think you find it important too, to do everything we can, even if it's online, to encourage people, to strengthen our own heart, to have a love for life and try to expand that within ourselves and other people, especially when times are really difficult like this.
Yeah, I can fully agree. Like the worst, so worse a situation is being played out with the corona. So much good is being revealed inside of the people, you know, that comes in forefront, which was not necessarily seen before, you know. That's that's a good thing, you know, of corona, if you ask me, you know. People start to think about the life. They try to open up, not everybody, but somebody who stands above the fear, you know. They make their minds up. What is it all about, this life? Is it just a virus or is it more, you know? Even for me, you know, in March when the stock market crashed, I have to tell you, all my fortune was invested in one company in the States. This company is known as the company Apple Computer. All my money was there. So the stock market crashed 30% from one day to the other. I said, Jesus Christ, what I'm going to do now? Then I said, okay, if the measures come up again and if they are a little bit higher than before, I will sell all my stocks, which I did. And then I started my financial education on cryptos. I bought gold, I bought silver, I bought mining stocks, you know. I really had to make an education during this coronavirus crisis for my personal wealth. And I think I'm better off today than I was in March, just financially, you know.
Yeah, that's good. I have dabbled a little bit in the cryptocurrency. I have a piece of a Bitcoin, but I have done some research, and I have friends that are deeply into it, and um, I really like the concept of it.
Yeah, me too. Bitcoin is really a fantastic concept behind. I can't say I understand it fully, but that what I know, and you know, it cannot be inflated. It's 21 million Bitcoins. There won't be any more ever.
Right. And how many of those that were mined really early are gone forever?
Yeah, they guess about, yeah, that's right. They guess about 5.5 million.
I have a friend of mine here in town that he's always dabbled with computer stuff and been really good at it. And when Bitcoin was first being mined in, I don't know if it was 2010 or 11, something like that, he was playing around with it, had a bunch of it on a computer. To him, it was just a game. He ended up throwing it away.
And
Oh, yeah,
and you know what? Huh?
he had a few thousand Bitcoin on there, I think, and just from
Wow.
sitting there playing with it and didn't ever think it was going to do anything. And he literally, his computer, he tossed it along with his, his recovery passwords. I guess he had them on the computer too and didn't think it was worth writing down anywhere else.
There were even people that have thrown away their computers with bitcoins on it, and later on they tried to find their own computers again somewhere, you know, in a place where they recycle materials, you know, in the hope they could find them again. But
Yeah.
can you imagine the price of the Bitcoin today? You
Yeah.
know it?
It's over 15,000 US dollars right now.
Even over 60 now,
16. I haven't looked
16 or
today.
something. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really amazing. I don't think 6 years ago anybody would have expected it to do that, maybe higher. But yeah, a lot of people have gotten very rich off of it. And I've done some transactions with people with Bitcoin, and it's been really enjoyable to do that because I have a little bit on my phone. And so I've donated to some websites that I appreciate. Just send them a little Bitcoin. It's really quick and easy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also had to dig into that. You know, it took me quite some learning how to do all these transactions and so, because I have different coins too. But what I want to say is, it also has a lot to do with the purchasing power of the fiat currency, like the US dollar. I remember when I first was in the States, 1996, there was $1 was about 3 Swiss francs, huh? And now $1 is 90 cents, 90 Swiss cents, you know. So the purchasing power, it's only one third is left, you know, within 20 years, you know. It's incredible.
I think one of the biggest challenges with cryptocurrency is for people to understand a little bit about how it works. You have to know some things about computers and, you know, keeping your passcode, your recovery words and all that. And to a lot of people I talk to, that seems really overwhelming to them.
Yeah. I think that's the main barrier for that it hasn't been spread wider yet, like the usage of Bitcoin, because the technical hurdles are too high for many people. But this will change pretty soon, I guess, within the next 1 or 2 years. Adoption will be uh, wider by banks. Even PayPal started now, you know, some weeks ago, adoption of Bitcoin. So this will really help, you know.
Yeah, I saw that on PayPal because I don't do much on it, but I did log in today to look at something. And I noticed that too. I went, oh, PayPal is starting to, I remember reading that in the news that PayPal is starting to use cryptocurrency. So that alone is a big deal.
That's a very big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will help much. And it also will help like to get the big money into the space of crypto, you know.
Yeah, it's just growing. The news doesn't seem to talk about it a whole lot, the mainstream news, but every
Yeah.
time I read my stuff, it's just growing and growing and growing. More people are adopting it.
But I tell you, when they talk daily about Bitcoin in the media news, it's time for you to sell them.
Yeah.
If your hairdresser is talking about Bitcoin, you know, then it's time to sell it.
Some good financial advice there. Well, Andres, you said that there was a key moment in your life that happened when you were 20 years old. What happened when you were 20 years old?
Yeah. Uh, well, what happened? You know, I have to go a little bit back further. When I was in school, you know, like all my friends, one said, "Okay, I want to become a pilot." You know, the next one said, "I want to know how to drive cars or trains or stuff like that." So they all had this vision, what they want to become. You know, what profession. And unfortunately, I never knew what I should do in my life, but I always knew something is waiting for me in this world, but I couldn't figure it out what it was. So, and when I was 20, I was invited by a friend for a lecture. And this lecture was about Scientology. And this guy who made this lecture talked about what we call the ARC triangle. I would explain that later what it is. And then it made like, to me, literally like a bulb switched on in my head and said, okay, this is what I was waiting for. And I was 20 years old. I can't express it any other way, but that's what happened. And since then, I'm a practitioner in Scientology, but I'm not like engaged with the church or with the normal organization. I was there a member 4 years, and I didn't like some things that happened there, you know. But I still believe in the philosophy and in the principles which I practice since almost 40 years. And for me, it's a very good thing. But that was waiting for me in this world. Yeah. So that was a key moment for me when I got to know this ARC triangle. Would you like to know what it is?
Yeah, what is that?
Okay. This ARC triangle is actually something that defines human relationship. it's well, that comes from this philosopher L. Ron Hubbard, who invented that or who researched it, and he says human relationship consists of three components. A for affinity. Affinity defines like the distance between things, between people, between objects. That's the A. And then we have the R for reality. We have to have a subject we can talk about. Now we talk about podcasts, for instance. So we have a similar reality that makes us feeling close. And the third one, and the most important one, is C for communication. So if we communicate a lot about the same reality and we love each other, then we have good understanding. If we don't talk with each other, understanding goes low. To the extent that we don't even have affinity anymore. But if you want to raise affinity with someone, it's hard to say, oh, I want to love you more. But it's much better with means communicate with this person, and you will see affinity grows and common reality grows. That's what we call the ARC triangle. It's very easy.
You know, I recognize in my life something you just said made me recognize this, that there were times that I would see someone and judge them by their appearance, not knowing anything about them. And then when I started communicating with them, my whole idea of who they were completely changed, because that
Yeah.
communication brought us together, and this person suddenly became very alive to me. Oh, this person is much more interesting than I thought, you know, especially here in West Texas, where you see a lot of old cowboys wearing cowboy boots and, you know, old stained jeans and an old shirt, and they haven't shaved in a week, you know. And sometimes you have no idea who that person is, but if you start communicating with them, some of the most wonderful stories in life come out, you know, of just beautiful things of the heart come out from them. And so that's what that reminded me of when you said communication.
Yeah. Very, very, very true what you say. I mean, one of my principles, even though I can't really apply it every time, but when in doubt, communicate, you know. That's, you know, if we all could do that, you know, I wouldn't be much problems in this world, right?
Right. Yeah. It's the difference between either hiding or forcing your beliefs on someone, instead to have open communication and share ideas.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it also helps in podcasting, does it? Like, yeah. I mean, what did Brian say recently? You have to be a good listener. 9% is the guest, 10% is you as a listener, right? Talking to you. You talk for 10%, 9% is the guest. And yeah, that's has a lot to do with communication, you know. Most people, what I think is they want to express themselves, you know. They are important, you know. They want to bring their message out, you know. And nobody wants to listen, you know. So what we do now with the is actually the opposite. And I kind of find that very rewarding too, you know.
And one of the things that is very rewarding to me in these podcasts is I'm speaking to people around the world. And that is so fabulous to me, because I haven't had much communication with people all over the world until the last several weeks of this podcast course that you and I are taking. And I love talking to people from different cities, different countries, different cultures, and having them talk about their expression of life. So I love having you on here just for that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's the same for me. Even my radius is not that wide yet because, you know, actually, for me, it's a kind of a struggle to make this podcast in English. Like all my friends that they talk German, and they have to persuade them, no, we have to do it in English, So, so normally my podcast would be in German most of the times. Yeah.
How many languages do you speak?
Well, three. German, bit English, and French.
Okay. So growing up in Europe, do most people kind of have a primary language, but learn other languages because of the closeness of the other countries there?
Yeah, and even within our country, we have three main languages. That's German, French, and Italian. Yeah, like our border is to Italy, but a part of Switzerland talks Italian. Our border is to France. A part of them, about 30%, they talk French in Switzerland, and the rest German. So we are really kind of at the crossroads, of all these big countries. And our bloody government is doing what the neighbors are doing. That's so crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting. America has some different languages and places. You know, in Texas, there's the primary other language is Spanish because Mexico is just to our south.
Yeah.
So a lot of Spanish, Mexican speaking people here, and lots of good Mexican food too.
Yeah. Can understand. I love it. Spicy.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about in our communication, you said life is really a game. What do you mean by that?
uh, well, if you look at the game, like a football game, it has you have football in Switzerland is not the same like football in the United States. Our football is your soccer, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So if you look at the game like soccer, you have your freedoms. Like you can take your ball and you shoot the goal. You have your boundaries, your barriers. There is a playing field. It's smart. You're not allowed to play outside. And you have your intentions. I want to make a goal. I want to prevent to get a goal from the opponents. You see? So you have an intention, you have your freedoms, and you have your barriers. And these three things actually apply to life too. We have our law. You are not allowed to kill someone, right? But if you have paid your taxes, you can feel free. You used to travel, you could travel around whenever you want. You can buy things, it's a freedom. And you want to have joy. You want to meet friends, you want to have fun. So if you can look at life like a game, it would be much easier rather than, oh, life is a struggle. I mean, there are people that say, oh, if there were no barriers in life, I would be the happiest person on earth. Ask them after a few weeks, they say, oh, it's so boring. Can you give me some barriers? The same, oh, if I had all the freedoms, I would be very happy. So for me, it's the same. It's like these three components that make it up, and they have to be in the correct relation that it will work. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, that's a good description of life being a game. And when you begin to enjoy it, it begins to look different, doesn't it?
It does, but even if you enjoy it, you always have to know there are some barriers there. You can't do everything. You're not allowed to do everything. And if you can keep that in mind, you can have an easy, good life. If you forget that, you will end up in jail or whatever. Yeah, but actually, life should be fun for everybody. That's right. That's the juicy things out of life. It's not money, it's not wealth. It should be fun. a good time with spending a good time with friends, you know. That would be life for me, definition. Yeah.
Yeah. So you also have a love for nature.
Yes, I do so. I'm almost daily in the forest. I have to say, I also live on the countryside, and to my next forest, it's about 5 minutes walk. And sometimes when I don't feel good, when I have too much resistance on my podcasting, I just take a walk in the forest, you know. And even sometimes, you know, as it's hard for me to explain, but if I don't feel good, I can go to the forest, I can lean on a tree, okay, with my back, you know, 5 minutes, and I feel the energy, you know, of the tree. And if we would be aware what is happening in the forest, we as human beings, we would be so amazed. For instance, I heard a lecture from a Austrian guy. He's a biologist, and he said, you know, like when you enter forest, the forests, they communicate with each other who is coming in, you know. They do it by Botenstoffe. I don't know how the word. They send these little particles through the air and they communicate with each other, these trees. They say, okay, it's not dangerous, you know, don't have to worry. And they communicate inside the forest, the trees, you know. So it's pretty amazing, you know, what is going on, which is not this close to our eyes yet, but pretty amazing. And of course, I love animals, you know. I'm a big fan of cats. I had several cats in my life. Uh, right now, I don't have one, but yeah, I just love them, you know. I even I even once succeeded uh, with a dog of a friend to persuade the dog to eat a grape, you know, grape. And normally a dog doesn't eat grape, does he? Okay.
No.
So I said to my friend, okay, I will make sure your dog is now eating a grape of me. You know how I did it? Okay, I put the grape there. The dog looked at it. I took it away. I hid it. I put it there again. After 5 or 6 times, the dog couldn't have it that I took it away from him. So he just got it, you know, even though he doesn't like to eat it, but he just took it. He couldn't have it that somebody takes something away from him.
Human beings react that way to things, don't they?
Yeah, 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 that's right.
that that's really interesting. He
Yeah,
finally got fed up, thought, all right, that's enough. I'm eating this grape. I don't care what it tastes like.
yeah,
I
yeah.
want it. Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. I can see doing that in my own life in ways that like I don't care what this is doing to me. I'm just gonna do it anyway because I gotta have it.
That's
Mm.
right. I also use this principle of like when I had cats, sometimes a cat is sick, you know, and they are very apathetic, you know, they don't move around, you know, and there's a way to bring them back to life, you know, try to tease them so they are going to bite you, you know, tease them and sometimes you succeed, they really want to bite your finger, but this means they're already risen up a bit, you know, out of apathy. So they're actually already a little bit more sane when they are getting a little bit aggressive, you know. So sometimes I did that too with my cats, you know, to get them well faster, you know, this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can see human beings doing that in ways. I think sometimes um, sports athletes have to have that done to them when they start getting a little, they're not putting as much effort in, and sometimes the coach may have to prod them a little bit with something that's not encouraging, but gets them riled up inside in order to get them up to back to that level of working and performing.
Yeah. That's I remember boxer, in the ring. Sometimes they're being clapped, by the coach, Hey, man, going now.
Well, and sometimes life does that to you, doesn't it? That
Yeah.
you go through an experience and you think things are going fine, or maybe the opposite of that, you think things are going horribly, and then something just slaps you. And sometimes it that's exactly what I've needed in my life, is to like get that slap and go, oh, now I'm paying more attention to life. I needed that. I didn't like it at the time, but now I'm paying a little more attention to what I need to be looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. I just can acknowledge that. Happened to me many times.
Always uncomfortable in the situation, but looking back, I'm thankful for every single moment of that in my life.
Yeah. I
And,
agree.
and I'm thankful for every friend that ever, did that with me, pointed something out that I needed to see. Might have hurt at the time, but ooh, I'm so glad that I had a friend like that. Well, Andreas, what can you leave us with today? That's of great value in your life? What's of great value in your life that you could tell our listener that would just encourage them to keep moving forward?
Well, that's a difficult question, but I would say, like today, many people think maybe, oh, the future will be bad or will be worse, and what are we going to do? Do they plan a second lockdown here, And I read a phrase from someone. I don't know who it is. He said, you know, in order to have a future, you have to put the future there.
Hmm.
Then you will have one. If you don't put one there, you won't. So that's what I could say to my listeners, to your listeners. Put the future there. Put that future there, which one you want, and it will be there.
Yeah, put your intent on something, and if you don't put it on anything, there's definitely not going to be anything there. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Andreas, I have enjoyed this conversation, and I'm really thankful that you had the time to come on here and have a good conversation with me and share your life experiences.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me too.
All right. Well, you have a blessed day, and continue on with your podcasting, and which is called Say It As It Is. I want to make sure I refer to that on here, that what your podcast is called. So
Yeah.
so listeners will know, and I will put a link to your podcast when I post this. So any of the listeners who want to listen to your podcast, they can find it immediately.
Thank you very much.
All right, Andreas, well, I'm gonna let you go.
Thank you.
All right, bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.